for oral answer, and the first question stands in the name of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he have confidence in all his ministers?
Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, does he agree with the Herald and others that Gerry Brownlees' procedural blunders in the House last Thursday were, quote, a major embarrassment to the government, which made it look like it didn't know what it was doing? And when is he going to take the decisive action against this minister, against ministers that he promised he would act against if they didn't perform?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, I don't agree with the New Zealand Herald, but what I can confirm is by the end of this week, at the very latest, all stages of the Electoral Amendment Bill will have been passed. And what I do find embarrassing is the way that the first action of the Leader of the Opposition when he became Leader of the Opposition was to grovel to the New Zealand public to ask for forgiveness for the fact that they'd passed the Electoral Finance Act in the first place.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. You'll have to do better than that, John. Mr Speaker, when will the Prime Minister apply the government's apparent commitment to 3 strikes and you're out to Gerry Brownlee, who's now made significant blunders on 3 occasions in just 3 sitting weeks of the House? Or does he expect Labor to go on rescuing him from the consequences of his own incompetence?
Mr Speaker. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, it's good to see that the Leader of the Opposition is so deeply focused on standing orders and doesn't seem to care about the economy.
Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You require a minister, and particularly the Prime Minister, to address a question. I don't believe that he did. I think he deliberately avoided it.
Order. I think experienced members know that if they ask political questions like that, they're likely to get political answers.
Mr Speaker, supplementary.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, how does the Prime Minister expect the country to have confidence in him when he promised sincerely that on wage restraint the government would lead by example, but as Minister for Ministerial Services he has agreed to hefty pay rises for the Beehive political staff, with more than a trebling of the number earning more than $150,000 a year, a trebling of the number earning more than $120,000 a year, an increase in the average salary by $13,000, while at the same time the Prime Minister generously gave people on the minimum wage a net $3.78 a week.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, it is true that we have paid higher salaries in ministerial services. It's also true that we've hired a lot less staff than Labor did. I might add, it's interesting just to see how many extra communication staff were added between April and October of 2008 by the Labor Party, and I wonder why that was.
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, with respect to the Prime Minister's answer, can he guarantee, in terms of numbers of Beehive political staff, the figures he quotes represent the total complement of political staff he intends to employ, and that the numbers include contracted staff and also political staff paid for privately and by parliamentary services?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, those staff numbers that were released reflect the staff that the government has. We have less staff in our communication department because we're quite happy to operate with less people who are of higher quality.
Speaker,
Honourable Leader of the
supplementary question. How can the Prime Minister justify his promise, or keeping his promise, that, quote, we would be looking at wage moderation across the state sector at all angles, and that those in the government sector should be paid, should have job security and therefore should take that on board, when he triples the number of people in his own department, political hacks, being paid more than $150,000 a year?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I can assure the member that there will be wage restraint. I've made it quite clear that that vote won't be increasing. Those staff aren't expecting pay increases. Well, actually, they didn't. We hired different staff.
We come now to questions.